Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Blood Phantom 81. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about Cathie Wood and the ARK stocks and make the argument that Cathie Wood coming onto the scene is one of the best things that could have happened for the average retail investor. So, in case you guys are living under a rock or just weren't aware, basically, Cathie Wood became popular ever since her epic Tesla call, which happened over the past 2 or 3 years, actually. And so she made massive outside returns with Tesla. And even during the March lows, when Cathie was loading up on these work from home stocks, which are actually her specialty, we saw that that was a brilliant idea as well because ever since the March 2020 lows, RK stocks have increased about 380%. And so that's, 3x, 4x, 5x return on a lot of these individual names. I mean, just the fact that the ETF went 380% is actually pretty remarkable. Um, but ever since February, these particular stocks or this particular class of stocks, as I'll talk more about in the video, have been taking a beating. The very funny thing is that since February, a lot of value investors and dividend investors and just like more old school investors started to celebrate come February because they were saying, like, see, I told you, like, you can't just buy any simple growth stock and expect to, 3x your money or beat the market. Like, it's not that simple. You can't just buy any stock, etc. Right? Like, we've seen that all across, Twitter and Reddit and even in person, as far as I'm aware. I mean, especially on YouTube. And so there's like a lot of people waiting to see Cathie Wood fail, as well as a lot of retail investors. And so rather than build each other up and look for different ways to outsize our returns, there's a little bit of a battle or competition between different classes of investors. And, for good reason as well, is because since February 2021, what you started to see was the Dow Jones and a lot of these value stocks and value sectors start to kick it into another gear starting in February. And so, ever since February, honestly, even ever since October 2020, the Dow Jones has been on I wouldn't say absolute tear, but certainly has been something like short of unstoppable. And so, if you take a look at some lagging sectors as well, like XLF, again, since February, XLF really kicked it into high gear. And so, these are obviously like big banks, more traditional companies. So, even more reason for these value investors to start to get a little more excited. But in the background, over the past, ever since March and even a little bit earlier, ever since February, RK has been consolidating in some kind of a base. Now, it has had a few chances to break out of this base. Obviously, there's this area of resistance at around 130 per share for ARK. And so it had a few chances to break out of this base, but it hasn't yet. And so, as we can see, we are starting to get into a tightening range. And so it remains to be seen whether we are going to break out to the downside or the upside. Obviously, the larger the consolidation, then the larger the move that we can actually expect. And so I'm making this video, I think for obvious reasons, is because I am bullish on RK and to the rest of the innovative space. And what I love about RK, and it's one of the first things I think is one of the best things for the average retail investor, is the grouping of stocks. And I keep on talking about this. I think I've talked about this like maybe in my last 4 videos, is that even stocks like RK, or sorry, even stocks in RK or stocks in RQ or ARKG or ARKF, whatever, right? They tend to look very, very similar. And this becomes a gold mine for us stock pickers, right? Because we can start to pick apart some deals that way. And so, whether we're talking about CRISPR, for example, and CRISPR, by the way, is also forming something like a rounding bottom, as you guys can see. And so, like, it remains to be seen, obviously, if this is going to be it. But you can also think about this as like an inverse head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Again, not sure if we're going to break out to the upside or the downside. Funny enough, CRISPR actually pulled one of these in October 2018, where we had this like left shoulder, head, right shoulder. But yeah, as I mentioned, so like CRISPR looks pretty similar, right? So we had a massive rally here at the start of 2021, and then obviously this pullback and then bottoming pattern. Let's go ahead and take a look at something like NIO, which is an electric vehicle company. Again, massive rally here to start the year. And then ever since January and February, we've had left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Again, remains to be seen whether we're going to resolve to the upside or the downside. But the fact of the matter is this kind of gives us the opportunity to take our pick as far as this class of stock goes, and we can start to look around for deals. And just to really illustrate that point, I mentioned this a couple videos ago as well. So this is ARKG, which is like, maybe only like 15% overlap with RK. And this is RK, right? It's the exact same thing. What about RQ? What does that look like? So it's super similar. And so again, we get to take our pick. And the great thing about this is that this expands even throughout the innovative space, right? So like even stuff that Cathie doesn't own very much of, like for example, if you take a look at the clean energy ETF, which is ICLN, again, you start to see the same thing, right? And so we're starting to see this phenomenon where these hyper growth stocks have been pulling back since February and they've been consolidating in a base. Let's just take a look at how much ICLN has pulled back, for example. So from high to low, that's about 40%. And so this is ideally the time where myself, it makes a lot of sense. Again, it's not financial advice, but for myself, it makes sense to start accumulating slowly into these companies. And, of course, like if we start to break out of this right here, this pattern, and the same thing can be said about all these other companies, right? Like let's just take a look at Tesla, right? Like same exact thing. So it's like this weird like opportunity that's like hiding in plain sight, right? Like obviously if RK and the rest of the innovative space starts to break out, then Tesla's going to benefit, NIO's going to benefit. What else? I mean, we already seen some stocks already break out, like let's say MongoDB, which fantastic company. I'm pretty sure I own MongoDB. Let's go ahead and take a look at my position in it. Yeah, so I only have two shares, unfortunately, but still, like over 50%. I'm pretty sure I only bought them recently. Um, yeah, sold at 360, rebought at 328. So again, not a massive trade, but still, like we saw, MongoDB already start to break out, and then if we take a look at something like Unity, Unity software had that same inverse head and shoulder look, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and this one's actually started to break out. So we had a breakout retest and a further breakout, and I'm pretty sure I do own Unity as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at my position. And so yeah, I'm at 6,600. Market value up about 40%. I was definitely scooping up Unity when it started crashing earlier this year. And so the point I'm trying to make is I'm not necessarily trying to brag on some of my positions that I'm up on. It's just that we start to see that some stocks have already started to break out of this range, and it sort of implies, in my opinion, that the rest of the RK space will follow suit. And at the moment, it's just that these stocks need a little bit of extra love. On the opposite side, you have something like Google, which has gotten all the love from investors right now. Take a look at something like Microsoft, all the love, and take a look at something like Facebook, again, all the love. And they've all been ripping pretty hard ever since March 2021. And I'm not gonna short any of these large cap tech stocks, as they've actually been making me a lot of money right now. It's just like these things are powerhouses, but there starts to be other opportunities elsewhere that we have to really start to consider. And so, apologize for the long rant. I do have other reasons why Cathie Wood is one of the best people that have been educating investors. And the other thing, of course, is that it helps investors dream big, in the sense that Cathie Wood sort of taught, like, hey, there is a way to outsize your returns by picking stocks that are moonshots almost. Despite what the rest of the public will tell you, or despite what the rest of institutions will tell you, there are some stocks that are hidden gems, and some are actually hiding in plain sight, right? For her, that was Tesla, but there are other companies like, Cloudflare, which, I mean, Cloudflare is, freaking fantastic company. It's probably one of the best companies to own out there, in my opinion, right? They control a massive amount of the internet. And I don't know if you guys heard in the news recently, they actually prevented like one of the largest like DDoS attacks recently. And so like they're a content delivery network, they're a web security network, and like just an all-in-one place you would want to host your applications on. And like this one is hiding in plain sight, right? And so despite what a lot of people will tell you, there are some ways to outsize the returns. And the best part about Cathie is that she's totally transparent about what she buys. Like you can start to think like an institution and like watch her trades. So how do we do that? We do that in one of two ways. One is we can actually take a look at this website. I'll go ahead and link it in the description down below. It's called cathiesark.com. So this is a list of ARK stocks, and so we see like every single company that she owns in ARK, obviously, and you get to understand what it is that some institutions like Cathie like about some particular holdings. Obviously, Tesla's her largest holdings, right? So Tesla's just a fantastic company, right? I mean, there are so many different industries. They have so much value, and really just a fantastic growth story there. And then Teladoc, which is a company that I also own. So that's like, I would say, obviously in the medical industry, but like med tech. The Roku streaming service, and then Coinbase. This is a cryptocurrency brokerage and in like a exchange. Uni Technologies, one of the leading software platforms for gaming. Zoom Videos, one of the leading software platforms for video communication. Shopify, e-commerce platform. Square, payment, right? So, like you guys know what each of these are. And then as you start to get into like the 10 through 20 to 30, you start to like not really know what these companies do. Like I'm pretty sure like everybody loves CRISPR, but I promise you like 90% of people that invest in CRISPR couldn't explain what CRISPR is, or they couldn't tell you the difference between CRISPR or Cas9. And so, but the point I want to make here is that like it gives you an opportunity to understand, different classes of stocks that Cathie likes. And you can obviously do your research on these companies and figure out like if you can find something similar or just help you, frame your investments a certain way. And so we can actually take a look also at what Cathie is doing recently. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at her trades, combined trades for all of her ARK ETFs. And so, like, we can see she's selling Google. And hey, guess what? I'm also selling Google to be able to invest more into a lot of really good opportunities. And so, like, she's buying in Invitae. Guess what? I'm also, like, I didn't even know she was buying this recently, but I'm also buying it recently because it's definitely been getting beat up lately. And Invitae is a fantastic company. So they're basically like a more consumer-facing genomics company. You basically get to have like DNA testing to figure out if you're predisposed for any particular diseases or any genetic defects or anything like that. And so it's probably one of the most consumer-facing genomics plays out there. And so a lot of people tend to like it for that reason. And look at this, like they're coming up off some fantastic support. Obviously, they're getting beat up. And so, like, you can get some ideas when you're looking at what Cathie is doing. So X1 is actually a 3D printing company that I own. I'm not actually selling too much of this. They actually recently got acquired by, I believe, Desktop Metal, but don't quote me on that. And then after acquiring them, they actually hopped up like about 30% the next day. So I'm still holding mine actually. But point is, right, like I don't have to do everything she's doing, but this just gives me some ideas basically. And so yeah, for all the reasons I just named, which is like to be able to have confidence in your really big but strange convictions, right? Because like who would have thought genomic stocks would have been one of the industries that she's most bullish in, and she's making it known to the public, right? Like that's fantastic, right? So it lets you have conviction in these a little bit more strange industries, gives you confidence in outsized returns. You get to see exactly how institutions buy and think. And of course, she's giving investors the opportunity to just invest in her funds straight up and then make your outsized returns, right? So you don't have to necessarily buy any of these individual companies to still, enjoy the returns basically. And so, yeah, that's basically where I want to wrap up the video. So I am starting to, wane off on the buys a little bit, only because I think I've already done the amount of buying that I would like to. But with that being said, like, it's hard not to, start to add more money into some of these companies. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, hopefully this video didn't get too long. Hopefully it wasn't too rambly. I'm still getting back into what it's like to make videos. Drop any video topics if you guys want me to cover something, and I will catch you guys in the next one.